Welcome everyone to our first info session. We are going to have a couple more, but our first info session about our shamanic initiation program that Emmanuel and I are rolling out in January of 2024. Our first one ever. We want to give you a little bit of context. We want to give you a little bit of our background and why we came to this moment. And then we'll tell you about the program, of course, give you all the details, the lowdown, and then you can ask questions at the end. So first things first, I'm Misty Magdalena Grace is my full name, but I go by Magdalena, Maggie, Mags. I am now fully standing in my power as a light healer and a light worker and a healer that specializes in leveraging the power of plant medicines, combo, drumming circles, a whole host of things that I offer up here in our sanctuary in Fallbrook with my beloved partner, Emmanuel. We have a family. I'm also a podcaster. I've had a podcast called Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, which is actually kind of fortuitous because I started that podcast 3 years ago and I wasn't really embodying that. And I'll explain more when I share more of my story, but it's still a podcast that's going strong, over 300 episodes. It used to be in entrepreneurship as a category, and now it is in spirituality, focusing on shadow work, inner child healing, trauma release, all of the modalities that we now also offer up inside of our containers to help support and serve empathic entrepreneurs, light workers, and healers such as yourself. And we also specialize in couples as part of our journey. Emmanuel, do you want to share a little bit about you before we dive in?
Absolutely, Magdalena. So yeah, so I'm Emmanuel. So I'm Magdalena's partner in crime, or if you want to call that. So we are together in this. So we are also married. We have kids together. So about Emmanuel, about myself. So I was trained for the great majority of my adult life as an engineer and a scientist. So I went to engineering school, got multiple graduate degrees, worked for big corporations, Fortune 100, as well as big government agencies at the federal level. Um, but here we are talking about spirituality, about shamanism, and it's like, how the hell did an engineer scientist end up in such a kind of esoteric field of practice? Um, and that's because some very interesting life-changing events happened to me about 3 years ago that gave me reasons to question and correct the path that I was following in life. So I want to insist that I'm very grateful for the time that I had as an engineer and a scientist. It was a beautiful time, 50 years. I was 50 years old when I started shifting to something else. So I would say a good 25 to 30 years of my life were spent in that field. And I had a great time doing it, but it was not fully what I was meant to do. So here we are talking about what Magdalena and myself are putting together in a very interesting, and I hope something that's going to be of interest to you guys too, a way of conducting our lives in the spiritual realm.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And so I'll give you a little bit of the breakdown. We're going to share each of our individual stories. We're also going to do a little bit of teaching, which is another reason you want to have a notebook handy. We're going to teach a little bit just to give you some free added value, and also kind of gives you a flavor of our spiritual teaching philosophies and coaching philosophies and all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to explain the why behind the program. We'll explain the program, talk about pricing, timing, and then open it up for Q&A. So a little bit about me, background wise, I had actually been a personal trainer, Ironman triathlete. I was in the health and fitness industry for 17 years. Also amongst that time, I actually had my first spiritual awakening in 2007, 2008. And at that time, I wanted to launch my business into healing and spiritual teaching. And I even taught a college course, which is a total story for another day. That was kind of a miracle, but I was so scared. I was so terrified of going into that realm. My family was very religious. I didn't know it at the time, but I was really, really struggling with that religion wound and was afraid to, proverbially be burned at the stake. I also think I had a fear, not think, I know I had a fear of receiving money for any kind of like spiritual healing work. I had imposter syndrome. Could I really make money doing this? Because I had been making multiple six figures as a realtor before the industry crashed, and I crashed with it. But I was just too scared. And I didn't have anyone like me or my husband at the time, and it wasn't my time. So fast forward to 2020, what happened in between then? I became a mom, I became a wife. I totally suppressed my passion and my gifts, and I went the traditional route. I stayed a personal trainer. I did fairly well financially, but truth be told, there was a part of me that was really dying inside. And sure enough, what we resist persists. And when your heart's desires are not heard, you can go on a dark night of the soul journey unconsciously. And that's what I did. And I became someone that I wasn't. I got into the MLM industry. I got into sales coaching because I'm really good at sales. I'm like thinking, well, this is good. During the pandemic, this is traditional. I was still denying my truth. And guess what? The universe will always come knocking on your door and say hello. So for me, I had become a binge drinking workaholic. I hated my life. I hated myself. I thought I'm either going to be dead or divorced or both if I don't do something about this. I had experienced a lot of death. My parents, my brother, 8 friends to suicide over a several year period. And I was just numb, making tons of money but just numb and wanting to die. And it was 3 years ago this month that a spiritual mentor came into my life, and he channeled the divine and said, guess what? Spoiler alert, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like sitting there going, don't talk to me right now. I'm really angry at you. And he said, you're really supposed to be a spiritual teacher and a healer, and you need to go heal. But he didn't give me any direction. It was very esoteric. I don't know if you've ever had a psychic reading or someone tell you stuff that they're channeling, and you're like, okay, no shit, Sherlock, what do I do with that? And he told me to go and sit with grandmother ayahuasca, psilocybin, and he had, no experience in that realm, no nothing, because he was channeling, and he was right. I was miserable because I was not being the healer and the light worker that I was really, really, truly, and all of my innate wisdom inside of my heart was supposed to be. So I spent the next 3 years sort of aimlessly wandering around trying to piecemeal my healing. And it's why we put this program together. Ultimately, is to be able to help you hopefully not have to go through what we experienced, or if not you, maybe you know someone. But I spent multiple 5 figures. I spent most of our savings going and trying to figure out this: how do I become a healer and a light worker who leads with that? Like, it's my profession. It's not a hobby. It's not something that I put in the spiritual closet, right? And so fast forward to today, now I am a full-time healer. Now I am receiving money for this as a profession, and with the possibility of making a very, very good living, and lost 35 pounds. I'm no longer a binge drinking workaholic. I shed a lot of toxic relationships, a lot of codependency, a lot of people pleasing, unhealthy boundaries. When you lose your identity and you're not true to yourself, you give your power away a lot. At least that was my experience, and it's what we teach. So through that process, I had to do a lot of purging, a lot of shadow work. I like to be able to share this slide really quickly. It's one of my favorite quotes by Carl Jung. I know we have some Jung enthusiasts on here today. And he says that no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. I don't know what that means for you, but it kind of summarizes a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. What is this shamanic initiation? So if you've studied Carl Jung, he's very well known for shadow work, working deeply with the unconscious mind. And for me, I really, really, really didn't understand that. Even when I started the plant medicine path, no one talked about it. And I would go and I sat for several months before I heard something about it, but no one told me what it was. And I had some really, really, really dark thoughts, dark experiences, and was actually terrified at times that I was going to lose my mind. So fortunately, fortunately, I persevered. I started studying Carl Jung. I started working with somatic release and breath work. I started working on my own meditation practice. I started working on understanding the chakras and cleansing and clearing the life force energy and the prana that's flowing through. And every time I would go and work and sit with the combo frog medicine, I would physically purge and then I'd go back and I would apply what I was learning. Again, this was not with like a program per se, but it was my way of finding how to come out of the depths of hell as I go through the shadows and the roots and getting really, really deep into my ancestral trauma and all that kind of stuff to be able to shine my light and have those branches, so to speak, as Carl Jung said, reach to heaven. And so through that transmutation of the shadow, I got to love my guilt, my fear, my shame. I got to love all parts of me, including past lives. One of the wounds that I healed that was intermingled with the religion wound was the witch wound. The witch wound. There's a great book if anybody wants me to recommend it, but it always, it blew my mind when I heard about it and I read like, oh my gosh, I'm my heritage is German, like almost 100%. And I go back and I read these stories about that's Germany's where the witch burning started, right? And so I really realized many lives I've been killed for speaking my truth, being a spiritual teacher, being a woman, and being a healer. And so in this lifetime, I actually said to myself, unconsciously, of course, we don't want to go there. And so I even manifested an autoimmune disease in my throat. I manifested addictions. I manifested all of this pain and suffering. But now I've completely understood the why behind all of it. And now I can go out and shine my light. Now I can go out and be fearless and not worry when someone throws the Bible at me or when someone unsubscribes from my email list or when someone says, nope, not for me. Sorry. I'm like, cool, I got it. Because those were all the things that I battled with in transforming from a sales coach, right, who was making tons of money and was known as like the sales whatever, and then coming into my own and really owning my truth and my greatness. So for what it's worth, before I turn it over to you, Emmanuel, I want to read to you kind of a taste of what our shamanic initiation goal is in this program. We actually have a great medicine cards book that you can draw these beautiful medicine cards. My husband does animal spirit readings and all these beautiful things, and we have this book. And we pulled this card that was all about shadow work, death, and rebirth and renewal. And I know, Emmanuel, you're going to talk about the Lotus Throne and what that means, but this is actually what a shamanistic initiation is all about. So this is kind of like, for us, and I'll let you talk about the word shaman and explain all that to them. We're not trying to say we're going to make you shamans. We know we all have an inner guru inside. We all have an inner shaman inside. We don't have to go and, at least this is our belief, you don't have to go and worship a shaman. We're not your gurus. We're teachers and guides to help you release and have that ego death, and to be able to come out on the other side and shine your light to the highest possible level, because the world needs you and your gifts and abilities. So this is what it talks about, going back to the shaman death is the symbolic death of the initiate to the old ways of life and personal identity, which is what me and Emmanuel did. The initiation that brings the right to heal and to be called, in this case, they say a shaman, but it's necessarily preceded by ritual death. Most of these rituals are brutally hard on the body, mind, and spirit. In light of today's standards, it can be very difficult to find a person who can take the abuse and come through it with their balance intact or still be alive. We both have had our own journey with that. But the basic idea is to break down all the former notions of self, whatever that is. If you're a mom, a wife, a daughter, a lover, a worker, and a business owner, whatever titles you are, you're going to be literally just letting go of all of those notions. And this could entail brutal tests of physical strength and psychic ability, and having every emotional button pushed hard. Taunting and spitting on the initiate was common, and taught him or her to endure the duress with humility and fortitude. The final initiation was to be buried in the earth for one day and to be reborn without the former ego in the morning. And now keep in mind, we are not going to be burying people, but that's not our plan or our goal. It's that metaphor, right, of letting go and burying those parts of ourselves that were masks, that weren't really who you truly are. We remembered, both Emmanuel and I, who we truly are at the core of our being. That's what my spiritual mentor 3 years ago actually did say. He's like, you need to wake up and remember who you truly are. In the case of my husband, they said that, and if you don't do it, you're going to die. And he had an ego death instead, thankfully, because we kind of like having him around. So I just wanted to put that on the table so you guys understand that this is a shadow work program helping you transmute the shadow so that you can go and develop your spiritual gifts and have more light in your body. They call them light bodies for a reason. And that's where Emmanuel specializes in developing your light body and your spiritual gifts. So Emmanuel, I'll let you take it away from here.
Thanks, Magdalena. So yes, that's quite a journey to undertake, but one that will find you. Probably already has started finding you, depending on where you are on your journey. I do believe that if you are here listening to us, it's because there is a part of you that's being called to go through part of what we're talking about, if not all of it, which is that ego death, birth, death, and rebirth. As Magdalena said, for me, I kind of, in the introduction, I was telling you that I kind of shifted from being an engineer and a scientist to this kind of spiritual, more esoteric work for a very specific reason. Um, I was called by my ancestors to pick up the torch. And when I talk about my ancestors, I'm not joking. There is a book that I found once when I heard a call and I was trying to understand what was happening to me. And I'll give you a few details about how the call happened. Did some research to discover what it is that I'm supposed to do, what it is that I'm being reminded by my ancestors to do in this lifetime at this point in time. And it was in 2020, right when the pandemic started, that all of this was unleashed on me. So there is a book that I discovered only a few months into the pandemic after I had started my spiritual awakening. I was trying to learn more about myself. So unfortunately, my father is dead, and many of the elders in my tribes have passed away. But there were stories that I heard when I was a kid about the fact that there is shamanic or spiritual healing as well as spiritual teaching um, in my family, in my heritage. And I didn't really know how far, how deep it went because I chose the route of the Western culture education, hence becoming an engineer and a scientist and being very successful at it for several decades. But I discovered a book about my family. I had no idea this book was written. This book, there it is. It's called An African Family Archive. This is about my ancestors. The book was written, it's 500 pages, 500 pages, written by two German historians who covered the story of my ancestors and documented. Is one of the rarest. This is one of the rarest documentation of what happened in West Africa shortly after the end of the slave trade. And my family, who that part of my family lives in the country of Togo, was documented by two German historians because that part of West Africa was under the colony of the Germans. So that's the reason why it was German historians who talked about my family. And I wrote a book about it, 500 pages about that. And within that book, there are countless accounts of how my ancestors were the people in that part of that side of Africa who were in charge at the political level at the spiritual level, and in the economy also of the region. So major responsibility. But one of the biggest one, of course, was in the spiritual realm. And they were very known for that spiritual power that they had to actually communicate with the divine and bring to the communities that they were in charge of a lot of healing, a lot of community health healing, as well as both physical and spiritual and emotional healing is something that they were doing on a regular basis. And my ancestors were very well known for that. And one of the reasons why those Germans took time to write 500 pages about that family. That's mine. So that's the heritage that I come from. These are my ancestors. And in 2020, they came to me, not in physical form, but it was my healed and wise ancestor who had passed away. My father, including my grandfather, and then many generations before them of healers who said, "Hey, it's time. It's time for you to wake up and understand who you are and what blood you're carrying here in this body." And it was a very dramatic awakening that I got. Uh, I started hearing voices of spirits. And think about this. This is the pandemic, the beginning. People are dying left and right. And now I can hear and feel spirits. I'm talking about ghosts. Yes, all the people who are dying, but not all necessarily every single one of them, and quite a few of them. I was very in tune with their pain as they were going through the agony of dying. And once they died, I was still continuing to hear them complaining and not understanding what just happened to them. So I had many visits at night of spirits, ghosts coming and trying to understand what's happening. So kind of, disturbing my sleep. Uh, my life pretty much was completely upside down because of that. And I had not yet understood fully why it was happening to me. It was as a consequence of those events that I discovered a few months later that, yeah, no wonder they come to me because that's what my ancestors used to do. They used to be able to take care of the departed and make sure that they cross into the light properly and bring some kind of consolation, if you want, or closure to their beloved who stayed here on earth. So I was called by who I was to wake up in this time of very dire need that was happening here in the United States. And I was told when I started talking to people who were in that field, and I was describing what was happening to me, the accounts, the encounters that I had, and he'd say, "Oh my goodness, you got it bad, my friend. You got to take care of this, otherwise you're not going to survive." But that's as Magdalena said. Pretty much, it said I would die if I don't do the right thing, if I don't respond to the call, because they're not going to leave me alone. Because that's who I am. I'm supposed to do what I'm here to do. And luckily for me, I responded to the call. I decided that, okay, if that is what I'm supposed to do, then let's just do it. Of course, I wanted to live, but there was more to it than just not dying. It was really discovering my true self, really embracing my true identity, being reconnected with the wisdom of my healed and wise ancestors, and bringing to this time, this place, some very beautiful divine gifts to help communities and individuals through things as difficult as shadow work. This is one of the things that's why we're talking about this initiation is really learning how to go through the shadow work as well as how to embrace the light on the other side to fully be reborn into your true or your real true self. It's a very it's a dire and difficult path and journey to go through. And that's one of the reasons why Magdalena and I using the teaching that we received as well as the experience that we've collected over the past 3 years, we put this program together to really help people who need this kind of assistance. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about the need for shadow work. And a lot of time people get confused when they hear the word shadow or shadow work. And Magdalena gave you already a pretty good understand or explanation about it, which I hope you were able to understand. But I also try to add to that like a very simple image or some kind of an illustration of what shadow work is. And that is us actually an explanation that came to me through communing with plant medicines. And they brought that wisdom to me during one of my time journeying with them. And the question was simple. I was asked that question. How far can you see during the daytime when there is a beautiful sunny day, no clouds in the sky, beautiful blue skies? How far can you see? Imagine that you're standing on top of a mountain, and I'm like, oh, that's easy. I could probably see all the mountains. We live here in Southern California. I could see all the mountains in the distance. I could even possibly even see the ocean if I'm close to it, or on a mountain or a hill that's high enough. Yeah, I can see pretty far. So then the next question that I was given to me says, okay, now imagine that you're in the dark of night. There is no full moon. It's like a new moon. The moon is not shining. It's still a pretty clear sky. It's, no lights around you. How far can you see? And the temptation was, well, if it's pitch black around me, I can see squat. And then the guidance that I got from the plant medicine says, look up. How far can you see? And then I realized that, oh my God, I can see stars. I can see constellations. I can see small galaxies. But when the night, unless it's nighttime, there's no way I can see these. If it's daytime and the light is all over me, I cannot see those details. I cannot see those other realities that are part of life that only can reveal themselves to us when we go into the dark. That's the role of the shadow. The shadow work helps us go deeper, dive within ourselves in those dark places that only when it's fully dark can you begin to distinguish the slimmest or the slightest lights. And these are things about ourselves that we've buried so deep that it takes shadow work to find them, to recognize them, to welcome them, embrace them, bless them, and release them. We know what happened when the dark goes away, when the nighttime is done, the light time comes back, right? So it's a cycle. It's a very natural cycle. That's the one that we experience from daytime to nighttime. No reason why our own spiritual and emotional being experience wouldn't go through something similar. It's very similar. Hence the need for the shadow work. And embracing that shadow work is one of the most important things anyone can do when you try to discover your true self. For me, discovering that shadow work was very painful because I had to go back to traumas that I had encountered as a very young child, including dying, by the way. I died 3 times in my lifetime as of now and came back 3 times. Yes, 3 times I died, and 3 times I was brought back. And being able to relieve the reasons that led me to dying, was very, very painful. It was some of the most traumatic, exercises that I could do. And I'm still dealing with it. I'm not done with this stuff. It's very deep. It's very profound. It's left me with a lot of grace, being able to see myself in the shadow, in the dark, to be able to embrace myself and show myself self-love, self-compassion, and forgiveness to my own self for the life that I've lived. So important. And it's because of that um, shadow work that I was able to embrace even more of the shamanic gifts that my ancestors had for me to claim. There were things that I was supposed to receive in this lifetime, and I needed to go through the hard moments to be able to receive the light. And I'm still receiving the light, but I got quite a lot of it at times to the point where I also wanted to take my life because it was too much. And even though we had teachers around us, the amount of light that I was receiving because of all the grace that my ancestors were willing to pass on was so much that it was overwhelming. And I didn't have a program as structured as what we are offering to you guys here to help. I'm just fortunate, again, through the grace of the divine, that I'm still alive today. But I do believe everything happens for a reason. There is no accident. And that's one of the reasons why we're so passionate about sharing what we're sharing with you. Because I know I'm not the only one going through things like that. There are a lot of people out there going through very similar, even if not harsher, experiences in their spiritual awakening. And we want to be able to provide a container, something that supports you. The last thing I want to talk about before I give it back to you, Magdalena, is the importance of having space, of holding space for people. When you go through things like what I went through, what Magdalena went through, so important to have individuals around you that can hold space for you. And what that space holding is really is about, as she said, we're not there to be revered as gurus. That's least of our of what is of my intentions. I don't want to be anybody's guru, but I would like to be a space holder for you as you go through your journey. And what it means is really giving people, acknowledging people for what they're going through, acknowledging the harshness of your life, the traumas that you've experienced, the pain, the suffering that you have carried or you're still carrying, and being able to look at that with zero judgment, no judgment whatsoever. Just knowing that, yes, it is what it is, and this is where you are, and this is precisely from which, from that point where you're in, that all the grace, all the healing, all the expansion, all the light is going to come from. And being somebody who gives you that confidence that you can do it, that you are normal. There's nothing, you're not a crazy person. You know, you actually are a hero of some sort. Like I would say, you will become maybe a spiritual warrior. So it's very heroic to go through that path, as Magdalena said. And I had some similar things. Being able to stand in that kind of truth that we're talking about, knowing where we came from, was not an easy thing because there was a lot of judgment, from other people, from family members, as well as communities that we used to be part of, about why we're doing what we're doing now. So we want to be this space holding um, help that we know everybody needs. And holding space is really welcoming you to be who you are, to cry when you need to cry, to scream when you need to scream, to laugh when you need to laugh, to be confused when you need to be confused, to be enlightened when it's time to be enlightened, to be joyful when it's time to be joyful, feel loved when it's time for you to feel that. That's space holding. It's really creating this container for you to be you and become even more of you. And it's a very important part of what we offer as part of this program. And on that note, I'll give it back to Magdalena.
Beautiful. If you guys, this is just a side note. If you have questions, you could start putting them in the Q&A feature. Don't put them in the chat if you don't mind, only because we want to make sure we don't miss them. How you guys doing? Just drop something in the chat. Say you're still with us and you're excited or however you're feeling. This is our first time doing this, so you guys are making history. How are we doing? Drop in the chat. Just let us know you're still there. Thanks. And Katie, if I don't mind, if you don't mind, I'm going to say you have sat with us before and in ceremony. So if you care to share any other tidbits with that. And so kind of going into my short, brief teaching, okay, a part of what I'm really passionate about, okay, we are going to be using plant medicine, we are going to be using combo, but we're going to be using a whole other host of modalities in this 8-week program. But when I was going through that journey, there was so much that I didn't know when you're doing shadow work, especially with plant medicine. There can be some times, and this is also why it's so great that, I'm the shadow work lady. He's the light worker with working with your spiritual gifts. Cause as those gifts come online, it can be very scary, but also as you're purging, as you're cleansing, even as you're probably experiencing that now, like if you have a trigger, if you have something really intense, you might start shaking, you might start crying, you might feel really angry, sad, all sorts of different emotions. You got to really work on your central nervous system through this. You got to really take care of your body. I didn't do this, so and even I knew this because I coached over 10,000 people in health and fitness and nutrition. So hello, that's how far gone I was and lost and dazed and confused through this shamanic initiation and waking up to my truth. So we really want to make sure we nourish you, mind, body, and spirit. And also, as you do shadow work, not only do you maybe cleanse and purge physically, but also mentally. And I really care about mental health. I've lost 12 friends to suicide. I admittedly had suicidal thoughts quite a bit during this journey. So we're going to help fortify your mind by nourishing and healing the body and purging. And then we're also going to nourish your spirit. And so what the heck do I mean by that? Well, again, I learned a lot these last 3 years, and our goal is to save you a lot of time, anguish, and a boatload. I tell you, a boatload of money. But I'm trying to get my slides here. I did put together some slides. Come on, come on. Are you not going to work with me? Oh, I was so excited. Hold on, guys. Forgive me. I can't even see my screen. Emmanuel, can you talk to me? Am I still here?
You're still here. We can hear you. We can
Okay.
see you.
Yeah, that's really strange. So hold on a second. My computer froze, but I guess as long as you can hear me, that's the most important thing, but I am gonna have to figure out how to get this to work. So in summary, part of the physical release is really to help your organs. Our organs hold a lot of emotions, including fear, including stagnation, including worry, anxiety. So we're going to help you cleanse those through superfood nutrition, which is exactly what I did. And also the spiritual mentor 3 years ago who told me, hey, you got to wake up. It's actually his company. So we're going to be helping support you as you cleanse and you purge, and the free radicals and the stress that comes out through this work is so intense. That you got to have some kind of cleansing and nourishing. And if you already have products and stuff you use, that's okay. I mean, it's included in the program. We'll talk about that later. But truly being able to cleanse and purify those cells and have a cellular detox is really critical. I don't have my slides in front of me, so I'm trying to remember the next slide. The other thing is from the spiritual side, and how we want you to be able to have more of the life force flowing through you, the prana, the chi that energizes you, that inspires you. When you think of spiritual, it's kind of a weird word because a lot of people think of different things when they hear that. But when you think of spiritual, inspiration, in spirit. So if you're a light worker and healer who's not feeling inspired, not feeling motivated, guess what? I can almost guarantee you, because this is what happened for me, is that your chakras are blocked. And we're going to teach you how to open them up. And we're also going to do that with the help of the combo frog medicine. All of your chakras were in your body when you were born. But if you know this, feel free to type in the chat. But, the first 7 years, your root chakra was developed. Hello, boatloads of trauma. Not getting your bottle in time. My mom, she had me in basically a psych ward mental hospital. I was born there and quickly taken from her. So I had a lot of root chakra issues, right? A lot of fear as I came through this awakening process. And I would be paralyzed by fear. You can tell my husband, I woke up for a year in fear every morning, sometimes crying and shaking. Nobody could really tell me what to do until I figured it out myself. I did more combo frog medicine to help ground and root, as well as spiritual practice. I developed a spiritual practice every day, like clockwork. And so that was a huge component. Then after 0 to 7, you have the sacral, 7 to 14, when you're developing your puberty time, a lot of your emotions are coming through, hormones, all of that kind of stuff. Potentially for some people, even their first sexual encounter. There could be a lot of trauma in that, and really shut down your creativity, your sensuality. Then you go on up to the solar plexus. Hello, 21 to 28, you're giving your power away to school, to college, to maybe your first marriage, to whatever. And so that's when our solar plexus is developed. Then you go to the throat chakra from 28 to 35. A lot of times, this is what I like to share. I developed my autoimmune disease in my throat during that time period. It was manifesting as my throat chakra was developing. Then from 35 to 42 is the third eye. Some people are finding that their third eye are opening during that time, or you're just getting really blocked like I was. I was really dazed and confused during that time because I wasn't listening to my higher self, and I wasn't developing my spiritual gifts. I was shutting them down. Well, guess what? It caused a lot of heartache and pain and suffering for me. And then when you're going from 42 to 50, that's when the crown chakra is being developed. And we want to help you align them. We want to help you be able to cleanse and clear and develop them and strengthen them, because the more they're clear, the more you can be out there doing your thing as a light worker, a healer. You're more creative, sacral chakra. You're not giving your power away. You're setting boundaries. Your trauma responses of people pleasing can go out the window, down the toilet, whatever. And so that's a little bit of the components of what I've learned and what I've poured my heart into this program. So that's the end of my teaching right now, because I can't see anything, and I'm just talking to a screen right now. Did I lose you? Hello?
You're still good, Magdalena. We can hear you and
Okay,
see
yeah,
you.
yeah, you're supposed to take over. I'm gonna start my computer up again, because I don't know what's going on. So I'll be back.
Okay.
So I'll let you
Okay.
take over because I don't know where we are, and I'll just,
Yeah.
you may have to let me and have me promote me to panelists. Sorry guys, Mercury retrograde is happening. It's been a rough one on this week. So do you know how to promote me to panelist?
I should be able to. I mean, I think it's through, yeah, I should be able to see that through the
Okay.
participants.
I'll be back if you wanna, you have the website if you want to start talking about it, or just open up for Q&A, and then I should be back shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do some Q&A, guys. I think we've been talking for quite a while now, it's almost 45 minutes. So if you have any questions for us, I'll be taking them. If I can answer them, I'll answer them. If they're on Magdalena's side of the house, I'll let her come back and answer those questions. But please feel free to throw questions at us using the chat. Type your questions in there, and then I'll read them if you have any. Oh, I could talk about. Oh, okay. No questions. It's all good. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to share one quick thing though, since we don't have any active questions while McDonough comes here. Um, in 2020, one of the big things that happened throughout the whole country, not just the country, but the whole world, because the pandemic was, was pretty much taking over the entire world. A lot of people found themselves having more time to themselves, being locked down, and you got to figure out how to do things. Possibly that's one of the reasons why I got activated, because I had more time to. I mean, it was not just that. The timing worked just fine, I guess. It was perfect timing for whatever happened to me to happen. But a lot of other people, starting in 2020, started awakening. That awakening thing that we talk about is really, it's almost like a voice within you, like your intuition. There's a part of wisdom within you that's telling you that there is something more to this life that you haven't yet fully embraced. So there's this like this whisper, and so for some people it's a voice that could be even louder. For me, it was seeing ghosts, and hearing spirits talking around me wherever I was going. There is a part of you that's beginning to be connected to other parts of reality and other parts of your own being that you may have ignored or not paid attention to sufficiently for the previous years of your life. That's what the awakening process really is. And it's something that's happening at the global levels. You experience it individually, but it's happening for the entire planet. There is this spiritual revival, if you want to call that, that's happening all over the place on Earth. And there are some beautiful reasons for that. As part of some of the communications that I was privileged to have with some of the divine entities with whom I work, including archangels, angels, and ascended masters, it was very clear that when they said that they are upgrading humanity, we are being upgraded, whether we know it, whether we want it or not, it's happening. So a lot of time you will wake up feeling that something is different about yourself, or you could have some abilities that come online out of nowhere. Let's say I got to promote. Have you been self-promoted, Magdalena, to panelists?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so I was quickly talking about the activation of codes and the awakening, just
Oh, the
while we
dormant
were waiting for
DNA.
you. Yeah, so it's happening. It's happening all around us. It's a global phenomenon. and you cannot ignore it. It's very important to really pay attention to it because it's only going to become more difficult in the future if you do not pay attention to it now. Um, the energies that surround us are changing. The vibrations are being raised, meaning that we're becoming more perceptive as a species. We're becoming more psychic as a species, and that means there are some other realms around us that are becoming to interact more obviously with us. And it's important that each one of us takes responsibility for owning their own work to be able to go through the ascension process, including the shadow work as well as the light work. Because the ascension is to bring more light within. And as we know, the story of the tree. The tree cannot go higher unless the roots go further down. So you have to dig deeper into the shadow for your leaves and branches to go higher into the light. So these two things have to happen at the same time. You cannot do one without the other.
Mm-mm.
And that's one of the things that's it's a reality now. It's a reality of everyday life, and some people are aware, and some people are not. But it's still happening, whether you're aware of it or you're not. And not being aware of it can really hurt you because you may not fully understand what's happening to you.
Yeah, can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
And
ahead.
then we'll share about the program and close, guys. We really appreciate your time and for being here and enjoying our Mercury retrograde technology. So what we didn't know, even though our mentor told us, he said, first of all, Didier, you'll die if you don't do this, and Magdalena, you're just going to be really lost, dazed, and confused and unhappy. They told us this. They didn't give us a step-by-step plan or anything. So they were absolutely right. He almost died. And I was like losing my shit and just like all over the place and taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. And with this dormant DNA, you might feel like you're going crazy. Some people are going to commit suicide. Some light workers are going to be so immobilized, they're not going to make any money. They're not going to go after their goals and dreams. Then they end up, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, okay? But then they end up, being the people pleasing and being all things to all people and spreading themselves too thin and spiritual bypassing and really not helping anybody, especially themselves. And so that's why these are the things we've seen and we've witnessed. And some people are just, they're going to die. So to us, we take this very, very seriously. We want people to live their best life. The world needs your help or anybody that that might be interested in starting this path with us. It's really serious and we take it seriously. And I think that's a perfect segue. My notes all shut down. So are we on track to talk about the program now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll also drop this link in the chat for you guys, but I still want you to pay attention to the screen to the best of your ability, or if you want to quickly pull this up, if you're on a computer, and look at the link, I'll drop our website in the chat. So you guys are early adopters. This is our first time ever doing this. However, we've been working and serving and doing this already for a year in different capacities, but now this is our first formalized program. It's level 1 of what could be. Again, it's not for the faint of heart. We talked about this is physically, mentally, and spiritually shedding layers, shadows, falling in love with all parts of yourself with guidance, healing your mind, your body, and your spirit. So for some people, level 1 may be all they can handle, but there is a level 2 and a level 3, and we have it 50% off for this first round. We do want a minimum of 2 people and a maximum of 8. It is allowed for men and women, although right now, as you can see on here, there's 100% women, and 100% of the people that I've talked to have been women so far. So we're open. So if you have any friends or associates that you're like, oh my God, we should do this together, we'll even give you a discount and a referral scenario if you refer friends to us. Okay. So essentially, we want to help you transcend. We want you to live your best health and your best wealth while trusting your own wisdom and being the light worker and healer you were born to be. So through this process, there is, like I said, a 50% discount. So it's $1,777 only, because when you hear everything that's included, plus what I'm going to do for you afterwards, you're going to be floored. It's for sure a $4,000 value, guys. And like I said, we spent multiple 5 figures trying to figure this out more or less on our own. And so our hope is, you know, you're spending like 10% of what we spent at the end of the year if you do all 3 levels, just to give you context, not 10% here. Because yeah, we spent, I don't know, it was like 60 grand, give or take, to save our lives and to figure all of this stuff out without a true guide or teacher. So if you can pay in full, otherwise it's a down payment of 1,000. We can do a 2-payment plan. If you pay $1,000 down, then obviously you're doing a 2-pay. There's a little bit of an admin fee interest to that. And then of course, wait a minute, does that make sense? That does not make sense. Oh, I get it. So that's what the admin fee is. So it's $18.88 if you don't pay in full. There's a $111 admin fee that you'd pay the balance in January. And then if you don't pay before December 31st, the total goes to $19.97. So we're just covering the cost right away because truly we don't want cost to be a detractor, but that's also why we're deeply discounting it to help people out during this time. And I have ideas too on how to create that money. I have some really good ideas on how to do that. If you're wanting to do this program and money's an issue, we have all sorts of creative ideas. So this is what's included, and there's actually more on that's not shared here. So you're going to develop your intuitive spiritual gifts with shamanic guided training for 2 weeks preparation. So we do need people to really ideally sign up by January 5th. We'll talk about dates and stuff like that in a little bit. The dates for the actual retreat weekend are up to you and whoever signs up. We're going to finalize that with you. But we're looking at the last 2 weekends in January is like the kickoff weekend retreat. And then we'll have 2 weeks prior to that with also a deep one-on-one consultation to prepare you for the retreat. But you'll have 1 deep dive plant medicine ceremony weekend. And again, that date is to be determined. 3rd or 4th weekend in January is what we're looking at right now. 1 or 2 combo ceremonies. I say 1 or 2 because it just depends on if you're local. And if you're not local, we can still do 2 ceremonies. We're just going to need to talk about that. I know Katie, you're not local, so we'd have to discuss that separately. But the combo ceremony again is really pivotal to helping with the cleansing process and helping with your body. And of course, if medically you can't do combo, you don't have to. It is technically optional, and I do medical screenings and I'm CPR certified, all of that stuff to make sure that you're safe and that it's the right process for you. But if you don't do it, we're not going to give you a discount because it's already so deeply discounted. After that weekend, we're going to have a group call, an integration plan for you for the next, basically for the rest of the program. This one's optional if you want to microdose psilocybin or ayahuasca. That one is a possibility. You just got to talk to me and you got to be approved. That's optional because I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you have the capacity to, like Katie, you've been a client before, you've microdosed with me before, it's there to help with developing your spiritual practice and helping with the whole mental, physical, spiritual rebalancing of yourself. I also have my online portal, so access to classes live and recorded 24/7 on demand, breathwork, meditation, inner child healing, Kundalini yoga. You say, hey, Magdalena, I'm really struggling with grief. I'll say, go to this video. We'll have a group thread and a group chat going during the whole time as well. So you can reach out and ask any questions privately or in the group to help you know how to handle the shadow work that's coming up, and we'll direct you to that. We'll have 1 group prep call and then 5 weekly group training calls after the ceremony, after the week retreat. Sorry, rather. We're also going to be able to help give you homework. Obviously, this is an intensive. Okay, this is not just like a, you know, there's a lot of shamanic programs out there, and I think they're awesome. Don't get me wrong, but this is like real deep work. So we would want you to not overcommit and do too many things else. Like this would probably be all you would need. You could cancel and quit a lot of other things that are costing you money actually to help you save. That's just a thought that just came through. So you have homework. You'll also have one on call with Emmanuel and then 1 with me. And there's going to be a lot done on the group calls because we want the group to each learn from each other. Now, if someone's really struggling, there can be, or someone has like really intense gifts coming online and you need an SOS call or an emergency call, we'll offer that. But if it gets to be too many, then we would then charge more for any additional one-on-one training. That would be the only additional cost, okay? Well, mostly. I actually just thought of one other possible cost. You get to graduate from this program, and if you choose to decide to go on, you have the ability to then go to level 2. And we're not going to talk about what that looks like, but we already have a level 2 and a level 3 initiation plan. There's also superfood, nutrition, and cellular detox included to help you cleanse and nourish the body along the way. I will be including a month's supply if you needed more, or if you wanted to do Franco, who curated the food, superfood, and the detox, who is my first spiritual mentor. He would probably even recommend that you have 2 doses a day, but that would be an extra cost to you. I'll get a 30-day supply for sure that you can start using just before the retreat or after. So if you wanted to buy additional, that would be up to you. So that's everything. We have consultation links on here. If you want to book a consultation, you just go to this link and click on it. And then just remember, we do have 2 more info sessions. The price increases after January 1st, just a couple $100, not a lot. So that's the program. I saw you, Katie. We don't have the date pinned down. I don't know if I was answering that kind of in real time. One of the last 2 weekends, yeah, I just saw, is our goal. So it would really depend on the individuals. That's why that's why we're discounting it, doing whatever we can to help you to sign up. And obviously if you pay and you sign up, guess what? You're going to get the first choice and priority of the weekend. So you get to help decide that. And if for some reason, obviously, heaven forbid, you can't come by a certain deadline, we would refund your money. We don't want to have any karmic energy or ties around that. In this situation, we would refund your money or put it towards microdosing or some other ceremony or whatever you'd want to do. So, any questions? Any other questions? We're right at 6:30, guys. Oh, I forgot because it wasn't on the website. I wanted to reward, you guys who are here to hear this for the first time. So I also have it was a college course, an MBA level course that I taught at Concordia University for several years, and it's called Transformational Success. It's an MBA level course, so business, and it's a spiritual course, transformational, hence in the title. But it helps you with business building activities. It helps you, and you would get that after you graduated from this level 1. And that would be our gift to you for being graduates of our level 1. So most light workers and healers don't hire business coaches. I can be that for you as well down the road, but at least you'd have this course to help you. That is our ultimate plan once people graduate from level 3, is to have some business coaching specific to light workers and healers and all of that kind of stuff. You can't be successful in business without a coach. I have a coach. That was actually one of my downfalls for a year, actually 18 months during that time of my awakening. I let it all go and I just focused on the spiritual stuff, and that wasn't a good idea. So we can support you along the way with this course that I have, and I have other tools and other courses along the way that I'll kind of help you with after you graduate from level 2. And then of course, after level 3, we'll be able to provide that kind of support because it's really important to have that kind of accountability as well. No other questions, so we can end it. And Manuel, did you have any other thoughts or questions or any other things that you want to share?
Um, that's really just one little thing in addition to everything that we've shared. I want to reassure people that it's true. It can be a very demanding, will be a very demanding, arduous, high level of commitment, but there will also be some beautiful moments. There will be some joyful moments. There will be laughter when we need laughter. We try not to take ourselves too seriously. As I said, we don't want to be gurus. That's the last thing I want to be is a guru. And I think Magdalena is on the same page with me. We really would like to be these companions on the journey with you of your transformation. Only a few steps, maybe ahead of you. That's it. But I think what we've seen will be of benefit to you, and we want to also make it something that is so transformational and so dear to you that you will find a lot of satisfaction by the time you're done, even with level one. I think you'll get the idea that somehow you made the right choice by stepping into this path with us. There will be some moment of joy.
Yeah, and again, reach out to us, book that one-on-one consultation. I know sometimes in a group it's a little scary to ask questions, but I don't have a lot of times available either because it's getting kind of busy. So I would say jump on that calendar that's on the link on the website sooner rather than later. Or if you don't see something, then say something. Send me an email. I think almost all of you have my email address, or reach out to me on Facebook, Laurel. If this calls to you, or if it doesn't, totally cool, guys. Know that it's there. Know that we will not offer up another level one for at least, I'm going to guess 4 months, maybe even not till the middle of the year. So if you miss this opportunity next time, it'll be more like $4,000, and it will not be for several months. And what we've been seeing and shown, 2024 is going to be really intense. We have intensity for at least another couple of years. So even if not us, please take care of yourself. Please nurture yourself. Please, 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 get help, get support. You're not alone. You're not alone. And if you're local, come to our Hape ceremony next Friday. Come to our potluck. Come to our drumming circle. We're still building a beautiful community here in Fallbrook, and we'd love to get to know you and spend some more time with you guys. So on that note, I don't see any other questions. So we love you guys. Please spread the word. Sharing is caring. And remember, if money's an issue, I'm very creative and resourceful. I was homeless once. Okay. So I got skills, and they're multiplying after all of this experience. So even if it's find a sponsor, borrow the money. I mean, oh my God, if I told you all the stuff we did, you'd be amazed. There's a lot of ways to create the money. You just got to believe in it. Money is just a form of energy and an exchange anyway. But because it's so discounted, we won't do any trades or barters or anything like that. Just let us know if there's any ways we can help you find that investment, that sacred exchange that will pay back dividends in your health and your wealth for 2024. All right, guys. Love you. Have
Bye.
a great night.